This graph illustrates an important truth about estimating, that spending more time and effort on estimating does not lead to better accuracy. Agile estimates are best achieved through team collaboration because we may not know who is going to be implementing the task. As well, when the team provides the estimate, they most likely buy into the estimate instead of feeling that the deadlines are imposed on them, and it helps avoid conflicts in the team. There are two well-known techniques for estimating: story points and using ideal days. Story points. Estimating is hard, and many people try avoiding it at all costs. When working with your team members, you will find resistance for giving you estimates. What is important to remember is that an estimate is just that. It's an estimate, not a blood oath. In Agile development, the product owner is responsible for prioritizing the backlog, so good estimation can give the product owner new insight into the level of effort for each work item, which then feeds back into the assessment of each item's relative priority. Traditional software teams give estimates to time formats, like days, weeks, months. Many Agile teams, however, have transitioned into story points. Points are assigned to each story based on the amount of effort that it would take to complete the story. Story points reward team members for solving problems based on difficulty, not the time spent. This keeps team members focused on shipping value, not spending time. When making a story point estimation during story mapping, developers must consider three factors: complexity. How hard will it be to develop this feature? Risks. This includes random changes, dependency on third parties, vague demands, and other uncertainties. Repetition. How familiar are the team members with the feature? How monotonous will the tasks be? You may wonder exactly how team members are supposed to calculate story points, considering the values are abstract and not reliant on actual time units. There are several methods available. One of them is called t-shirt sizing. The scale follows t-shirt sizes: extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, etc. The linear sequence. The classic is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The doubling sequence. Double each digit in succession, like 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. And the Fibonacci sequence. Each successive digit is the sum of the two previous numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and 21. Whichever point system you use, the team should remember to ask these questions. How complex is the work? How much work will this take? What are the team's technical abilities? What are the project's risks? What parts of the project are we unsure about? What must be in place before the team can start and finish? What could possibly go wrong? Planning poker helps a team gain a consensus of the correct story point approximation for each item. Here's how it works. In a sprint planning meeting, each developer receives a set of cards, each one depicting a number of points. A backlog item is brought to the table so that the team may ask questions and clarify features. When the discussion is closed, each developer selects the card that most accurately reflects their estimate. When all cards have been selected, the estimators reveal their cards at the same time. If a consensus is met, it's time to move on to the next backlog item. If the estimates vary, they then discuss until they arrive at a consensus. Retrospectives are helpful in estimating, as they are a time for the team to incorporate insights from past iterations, including the accuracy of their estimates. Many Agile tools like Jira software track story points, which makes reflecting on and recalibrating estimates a lot easier. Ideal days is about asking for an estimate based on the number of days to complete something if there are some assumptions in place. The ideal days estimation technique is based on the following assumptions: that everything will be ready when you start your work on a task. There will be no interruptions. The team will be working only on the stories from the sprint backlog. Ideal days has the following benefits. It encourages the team to collaborate and cross-function. Represents a more accurate sizing. Usually it is faster to estimate, and the criteria for estimating is consistent. For ideal days estimate has the following advantages: easier to estimate, easier to communicate how you arrive with an estimate. Once you come up with the story points or ideal days, you can sum them up and that will give you an estimate of the project duration. From the project duration, you can generate a project schedule. While it is very clear how to estimate duration from ideal days, if you're using story points, you will need to calculate velocity first. Velocity is the rate of progress, or how many points the team can complete in a day. And obviously, to find that out, some of the project has to have executed for a while. It is calculated by adding up the number of story points that are assigned to each user story completed during each iteration, and then dividing that by the number of days in the iteration. For example, if a team completes a total of 20 points in 5 days, then the velocity is 20 divided by 5, which is 4. In order to determine the velocity at the beginning of the project, you may need to use historical values and then adjust the velocity, calculating after each iteration or sprint in this project. If you don't have the data, you may start with your best guesstimate and then calculate it by the end of each sprint, and then use this value for planning the next sprint. Since there is always uncertainty associated with estimation, it is best to add buffers, and the most common buffers are schedule buffers, where you would add a few days at the end of the schedule to account for potential delays. Especially if you're using ideal days estimate, it is prudent to add some time for the interruptions, for some rework, and time that may be required to collect additional information or requirements and clarifications. A feature buffer is when planning your product requirements, you make an assumption that not all features will be delivered. Agile recommends 30% of the effort of the project be included in the last iteration to accommodate feature buffer. In addition, you can add plus or minus 50% buffer per user story when estimating.